If a football hero accused of murder is news for months, if every Capitol Hill scandal merits weeks of coverage, how much attention do 2.5 million dead merit? It's a story we should have brought you long ago. This week on Nightline, we'd like to make up for that by finally telling you about the beauty and the tragedy of Congo. 3 years, 2.5 million dead. We thought you should know.
This has been an ABC7 Eyewitness News special report.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, actually. We have breaking news this out of downtown Manhattan. A plane has allegedly crashed into the World Trade Center. You're looking at live pictures right now from News Chopper 7. A plane has crashed into the side of the World Trade Center. Details at this hour, very sketchy. At 8:51, that is the time right now, just a few moments ago, allegedly a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't have any reports of what type of plane, what perhaps the carrier was, how many injuries are there right now. Police and fire units are being dispatched to the scene as we speak. Again, very little known. We are taking live pictures. You're looking at it before fire and police personnel have even arrived at the scene. The smoke, as you can see, billowing over Manhattan. The World Trade Center, of course, the scene of a bombing several years back, of course, that made news. And when this first came up, folks thought that might have been what happened. But again, we're being told right now that a plane has crashed into the side of the World Trade Center. Again, these are only sketchy details. We'll just stay with pictures. News Chopper 7, I believe John Del Giorno is in the air. John, if you can hear me, what do you see up there? Okay, so John's not with us at this moment, but what we can see is smoke billowing out of all three sides. It looks like the left side of your picture right there is perhaps, we are only speculating now, as no facts have come in, that perhaps that is where the plane may have struck the building. Again, smoke pouring from one of the twin towers of the World Trade Center. Right now, fire personnel, we're being told, arriving on the scene as we speak. This happened about 8:48 a.m. is when news first came of it. Associated Press is reporting very little more than that. We do have an eyewitness who is joining us on the phone. Sir or ma'am, just say your name and tell us what you saw there.
Are you speaking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Libby Clark, and I am on the 33rd floor of Mercer Street, and we felt the plane fly right over us, and then I thought it looked like it was going to go right in the World Trade Center, and then it was going to veer off, but it slammed directly into it.
Libby, did it look like a large or a small plane? Was it a passenger plane or perhaps a large jet?
I believe it's a passenger plane. It was relatively large. I mean, it wasn't the size of a jet.
Okay.
But it was not a small plane.
Right, it wasn't a small, like perhaps
like
5 or 6
seater. No, it was a large, and it was so loud right over our head.
Did you hear anything unusual? When you said it was loud, obviously it was very low, and you get the reverb off the buildings right there, but did you think that perhaps it might have had engine problems from the way it sounded to you?
It's very difficult to tell because it's unusual that you have a plane fly that low right above your head, but we heard it and we stopped talking, and then it looked like it was trying to make a left away from it. And I said, it's going to fly right into it, and then it flew right into it.
Libby, did you see the parts of the plane drop down? Because we don't see any.
No, it looks like the plane, I'm looking right at it from the 33rd floor on Mercer Street, and I don't see that the plane seems to be in there.
It seems to be in there, okay. You didn't see anyone, I don't know how much of a vantage point you might have to see in windows. You can't see if there are people anywhere.
I can't see that. I just saw tons of debris shooting out of the building.
Sure.
We're relatively close. I mean, I have an amazing view of it, but I can't see any people.
Libby, did you think when you saw that plane heading toward you, said that you thought it was going to run into it?
It looked exactly like it was going to slam right into it.
Really?
Except it looked like it tried to make a veer left away from it, but it was going right for it.
Wow. Can you tell us, can you see the ground there if fire and police personnel have arrived there yet?
Here.
I'm sorry?
No.
No? You don't see any fire trucks at all?
I can hear the fire trucks, but
okay.
I can't see them now.
All right, Libby, if you'd hang on the phone, I don't know if we can keep you hanging on, but we've got another eyewitness as well. Steve Silva, who saw this as well. Libby, hang on and let's go to Steve. Steve, can you tell us what you saw?
Yeah. Well, I was sitting at a table and the plane was flying too low, making too much noise, so I got up and looked out the window. And sure enough, it slammed right into the north side of the, I guess it's the northernmost tower, and exploded into a big orange flame.
Steve, Libby said it looked like a passenger jet to her, not a small...
It was smaller than your commercial jet, but it had twin engines, jet engines in the back. It looked like, it might have been a small jetliner.
A small jetliner. Okay, these of course are unconfirmed. This is kind of like from our naked eye view. Steve, can you see down on the ground?
I'm on the roof. I live on the top floor. I've got some great photographs. It's burning right now. It's just started flaming again and spewing out black smoke.
Steve, can you see, I don't know what your vantage point is. I know Libby was a good ways away. Can you see any people perhaps in floors above in those windows, or you don't have that vantage point either?
Well, if they'd be enshrouded in smoke, I know every siren around here is going off. The police must all be heading down.
Steve, how close are you to this to the building?
I'm on East 7th Street. I've got a perfectly open, clear view. There are choppers now over the building.
Steve, I talked to Libby about seeing any wreckage that might have fallen to the street. She didn't see a whole lot. She said most of the plane she thought stuck into the building. What do you see?
I'm sorry, I can't make that out, but I can't see anything on the street.
Okay, so what we know right now, in case you're just joining us, this is live pictures of the World Trade Center where a plane, and we're trying to get confirmation on what type of plane Steve and Libby both thought it was a passenger plane, relatively small, but not certainly a plane that
it was not like a Cessna or anything like that. It was like a small jet liner.
Okay. Okay, very, very much. Steve Silva and Libby Clark, if you would be good enough, if you could just hang on the line for a minute. Libby, are you still with us?
Yep.
Libby, what do you see now? Is there anything more that you can share with us?
I just see now the smoke is really thickened. It's really, really thick, dark smoke pouring out of it.
And you're looking at pictures right now. Libby, I'll put you on pause here for just a moment. Pieces of the World Trade Center coming down, small pieces, or what would look like small pieces as we look at it from Newscopter 7. And Steve had said that it crashed into the north side of that tower, one of the twin towers of the World Trade Center. Of course, when we saw these pictures first coming in actually about 10 or 11 minutes ago, our minds flashed back to the World Trade Center bombings, but certainly this is not that. It is definitely a plane that has gone into the side. Libby, anything more that you can see from your vantage point?
No, I mean, now I just see the helicopters, and the smoke is just getting thicker and thicker, and it's devastating.
You're looking at a picture now over Central Park, looking back at the Twin Towers. The smoke looming, of course, over Manhattan. There's one of those helicopters. One of our newscopters is up there as well, John Del Giorno. Earlier, we did not have John's audio. Do we have John now? No, we still don't have John. As soon as we get John on the phone, we will go to John, who has obviously a bird's eye view, as you can see right now, from Newscopter 7. Smoke again billowing. We have no reports of injuries. Fire and police personnel arrived on the scene. They are at the scene right now. Very difficult, of course, to put a fire like this out, I would imagine, because you can't really knock it down from below, and certainly knocking it down from above at this point, if the entire upper floors there are encased in flames, would be difficult. Steve, are you still with us?
Yes. Yes. Hello, yes, I'm here.
Okay, Steve, hang with us. We're going to go to another eyewitness, Sandra Rodriguez. Sandra, are you there? Sandra, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
This is Steve Bartlestein, Eyewitness News. Can you tell us what you saw?
Okay, I'm over here in the South Bronx, and I was up on the roof, and the plane came right over my roof. And it was up at a pretty good height, like it was a normal flight. And I kind of thought to myself, oh, it's probably going to JFK, because we could see them landing at LaGuardia. It came over. It was a small passenger plane, like about maybe 50 people could fit in it.
Okay.
A small one, and definitely not a Cessna. And it just kept on going. And the first thing I thought of is it's like a drunk driver. It just kept on going and realized what was going on and tried to turn to the left. And
wow.
It didn't make it. It went right into the World Trade Center.
Sandra, Olivia talked earlier about it. It was very, very loud as it went over her area. Now that could possibly be reverb in the city. You're used to planes going over your apartment, I would imagine, in the South Bronx. Did it sound similar or dissimilar?
Similar. It sounded normal.
Did it?
Yeah, it sounded very normal. It sounded at the normal sound at the height that it was, and it looked like a normal plane going over the city. And then all of a sudden, it was like a sudden try to turn to the left, and it didn't make it. It just went right into the World Trade Center.
It's interesting.
Slammed right into it.
Did you see it actually make contact with the building?
Yes, I did.
Now, the fact that you would watch a plane like that, was there something unusual that made you watch the course of a plane?
Yeah, because usually planes coming into LaGuardia, they don't fly this course. It was flying from the Westchester direction into Manhattan, that direction. And anything going into LaGuardia, they usually do like a circle pattern, or you'll see them coming in from like around New Jersey or over Manhattan itself.
You're looking at
it just didn't look right.
Okay, let me put one more. You're looking kind of at one of our newer pictures of the buildings. You can see the smoke very, very dense. This perhaps is the north side. I can't tell from looking. Black smoke. Let's go to. We've got another eyewitness on the phone. Is it Winston Campbell?
It's Winston
Mitchell. Winston, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Winston, you're a photographer?
Yeah, I work for Transit News.
Okay, can you tell us what you saw, Winston?
Yeah, I'm sitting in the car, and I heard this plane overhead, and then all of a sudden I thought it sounded kind of louder. Then I looked up, and all of a sudden it smashed right dead into the center of the World Trade Center. Big flash of flame, fire coming out from all over. Then all the bricks is a huge hole right now. It almost looked like the plane probably went through. I'm not sure.
Winston, can you see? Are you on the north side there where the plane made contact?
Yes, I am.
Now, when you say a huge hole, one of our earlier witnesses, Libby Clark, said not much of the plane came down off the building. Much of it went
totally
right
into the building.
It's in the building, from what you can see.
Right.
Now, can you see if there's a lot of debris downstairs, Winston?
No, because it looked like it inverted. With the impact, everything went inside the building.
Inside.
The only thing that came out was a little bit of the outside awning. But I'd say the hole is, let me just get a better look right now.
Okay, go ahead. We'll wait.
I'd say the hole takes about, looks like 6, 7 floors were taken out. And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
Okay.
Hold on, I'll tell you what's going on.
Okay, just put Winston on pause there for just a moment.
Okay, the whole building just exploded some more. The whole top part.
Okay.
The building's still intact. People are running up the streets. Am I still connected?
Winston, this would support probably what Libby and you both said, that perhaps the fuselage was in the building that would cause a second explosion such as that.
Well, that's what just happened then.
That certainly.
Yeah, people are running up.
We're getting word that perhaps.
Okay, hold on. The people here everybody's panicking.
All right, Winston, Winston, let me put Winston on hold for just a moment.
Okay, I don't know how much longer we're staying. I'm inside of a diner right now.
Well, Winston, you know what? If you could give us a call back, I just don't want to panic here on the air. Let's just take some of our pictures from News Chopper 7. Now, one of our producers said perhaps a second plane was involved, and let's not even speculate to that point, but at least put it out there that perhaps that may have happened. The second explosion would certainly back the theory from a couple of eyewitnesses that the plane fuselage perhaps stayed in those upper buildings. Now, if you look at the second building, there are two, that both Twin Towers now are on fire. Now, this was not the case, am I correct? A couple of moments ago. This is the second Twin Tower now on fire. And we're going to check on the second flight if perhaps that had happened. This all began at about 8:48 this morning. Again, what we know, in case you're just joining us, a small plane, not a Cessna type or 5 or 6-seater, but instead perhaps a passenger flight, ran into the north side of the World Trade Center. As you can see, the second explosion that you're looking at now in the second Twin Tower, it has spread much debris, much more debris than the first explosion or the first accident. Is Winston still on the line with us? Okay, he's not there, but do we have, I'll just talk to my producer, do we have an eyewitness that perhaps sees better than we do from these pictures? Again, you can see that there is debris falling off. Okay, we actually have an Eyewitness News reporter, Dr. Jay Adlersberg, who was downtown at the time, and he is on the phone with us live. Dr. Jay, what can you tell us?
Hello, Steve. I'm actually uptown at 86th and Riverside. I can see the World Trade Center from about half the building up to the top. And about 5 minutes ago, as I was watching the smoke, a small plane, it looked like a propeller plane, came in from the west, and about 20 or 25 stories below the top of the center, it disappeared for a second and then exploded behind a water tower, so I couldn't tell whether it hit the building or not, but it was very visible that a plane had come in at a low altitude and appeared to crash into the World Trade Center.
Dr. Jay, we're going to take a look at videotape just moments ago of the second plane hitting the World Trade Center. That is spectacular pictures. I don't know if you could see the plane, and that too was a passenger plane, if perhaps some type of navigating system or some type of electronics would have put two planes into the World Trade Center within, it looks like, about 18 minutes of each other. You want to go to... We have another copy. There's the second plane, another passenger plane hitting the World Trade Center. These pictures are frightening indeed. These are just minutes between each other. So naturally, you will guess and you will speculate and perhaps ask the question, if some type of navigating equipment is awry, that two commuter planes would run into the World Trade Centers at the same time. Our director, you're speaking in my ear at this point. You are looking at live pictures right now of the World Trade Centers. Again, we now have two passenger planes within 18 minutes of each other smashing into the World Trade Centers. Dr. Jay, are you still with us on the phone?
I'm still with you, Steve.
Dr. Jay, this is just frightening pictures indeed, and I would assume, or you would naturally think, that when there is a tragedy such as this, you would even avert that area even more. It certainly makes you scratch your head as to what could have happened here.
I've seen this area, Steve, every day for the last 2 years. I've never seen either a passenger plane, a helicopter, or a large jet approach the World Trade Center at that level. This strikes me as being very strange.
This is strange indeed. Again, if you are just joining us at 8:48 or thereabouts, we don't have a confirmed time, a small jet, we don't know, some eyewitnesses pegged it up 50, 60-seater, smashed into the World Trade Center. Then 18 minutes after that, a second plane, as you could see, perhaps about the same size, it definitely was a commuter-type plane, commercial flight, has smashed into the other Twin Tower. Shocking pictures, to say the least. Dr. J, I know that you're up quite a ways. Can you see? It looked to me like on the second explosion, it might not have been as clean a hit as the first one, and there was much more debris on the second one. Would you agree with that? Okay, Dr. J, obviously not with us.
No, hello, Steve.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. J.
Still here.
I can
see through a powerful telescope, which I have, that there's debris floating in the air presently right now at about 20 stories below the top of the World Trade Center. And after the impact and the explosion, there was a tremendous amount of debris in the air just immediately after the impact.
Dr. J, please hang on the line just for a second. We've got another eyewitness who joins us on the line. What is your name? Hello?
Yes, my name is Steven Silva. I was on the line before.
Oh, okay. Steve, what can you tell us? Anything new? And I only went to you after the first plane had hit. The second plane, did you see that hit as well?
I was standing here holding the telephone. I saw its approach to the southern tower and the southern face of the southern tower. I saw it approach, and I said, oh, my God, it's going to do it again, and it did it again.
You're looking at videotape right now. This is the live picture. I'll bet is the second one that passed either between or to the right side. I can't tell from this angle. Two passenger planes have now collided with the World Trade Center. And you can see the pictures now. Steve, can can you tell us anything new about what you saw in the second impact?
Yeah, the second impact threw out a lot of debris right through the building, out the opposite side on the north face of it. It just threw out all manner of confetti like shrapnel.
Okay, and have we got Dr. J still on the line?
I'm here, Steve.
Dr. J, when you saw, now, because I have a very tough vantage point here looking at the live chopper and live, because I'm sure we're restricted flights. Was the second tower ever involved until the second collision, or was it just one tower to that point?
I can't tell right now because from this vantage point, the towers are superimposed on one another,
sure.
And it's very difficult to tell where the impact was.
Steve, you're on the line as well. Was the second tower involved in the first crash at all, or is that...
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't at all involved, not in the least.
Not in the least. So, I mean, I would pray that folks got out of the second tower just with impending smoke and danger. So perhaps tragedy, at least for the folks that were in the building, certainly not those on board, could have been averted. We certainly don't want to speculate, but we would hope.
I can't say, but it was so fast after the first one, it couldn't have been 20 minutes less.
It was. I had it on my watch at 18, but of course that's not official or even deemed accurate. It's 9:12 right now. The first plane on my watch made contact at 8:48 in the morning. That was about 24 minutes ago. Within the first crash, 18 minutes later, a second plane went in, and I would imagine we certainly don't want to speculate at this point, but questions immediately arise as to some type of navigational material or electronics that perhaps went awry that would cause two planes within 18 minutes.
This is war. There's no question about it. These are deliberate attacks.
Well, let's certainly not go there. It's 9:12. We don't know anything more than what we can see right now. Those are flames. Those are smoke. Both twin towers engulfed at the top. One fuselage we thought had exploded after sticking inside one of the twin towers. Then we come to find out after looking at videotape that you have seen here several times that a second plane has hit the other twin tower. Both twin towers in New York City right now fully engulfed from the top floors up, smoke looming. I would certainly hope at some time, folks, we can go to John Del Giorno because John knows a lot about flight. Okay, I'm just being told that our electronic gear that transports John's voice signal is located at the top of the World Trade Center. So that's going to be a problem getting to John. If John wants to feed us any information through our producer's desk via phone, certainly, John, I could use the help here on your knowledge of flight. Information that we have right now, that is certainly speculation, but it is all that we know, is that two planes have made contact, one with the North Tower, one with the South Tower. We don't know how many people are injured at this point. We know that fire and medical personnel are on the scene. We know that this is probably one of the worst tragedies, certainly, that New York City has seen since perhaps the World Trade Center bombing. We know nothing about whether the people got out of the second tower before the second bit of contact. Dr. J, can you add anything from what you see, sir?
All I can say, Steve, is that I can see both. I can see at least one tower billowing smoke. I'm seeing the same images, actually, that you're seeing from the helicopter right now, from Chopper 7. And I can't add anything more because I can't get a better view than you're getting right now from the helicopter.
Okay, if we could even make a plea to, if there is a commercial pilot that is perhaps watching our broadcast at this time that might be able to shed some information on what may have gone wrong, what could have gone wrong, what he might have seen in the second jet contacting the second tower. Of course, pictures aren't available. The first accident, which occurred in the North Tower. The second, as I'm told, is in the South Tower. You're looking at another live picture from Newscopter 7. Debris, flames. I would hope, and certainly you would pray, that during the first contact that the second tower was evacuated so that when contact made with the second plane that went into the second tower, many of the people out of there were out. Eyewitnesses have told Eyewitness News that it looked like a passenger plane, a commercial flight. Okay, we're going to go to a piece of videotape right now, a better angle that you've seen of the second airplane hitting the World Trade Center. There is another angle. Actually, we might have seen that one earlier, but you can see the debris spreading, the explosion happening mid-air there after making contact. The fact that part of the plane got through there would suggest that it was not direct impact, but perhaps a wing or part of the fuselage. There's the new pictures. That is a new picture of the smoke billowing from the second explosion. Eyewitnesses tell me, and this of course is not confirmed, that only one tower was involved the first time, and that the second time, the second accident, is when the other tower got involved. You can see debris, much of it flying left, right, looking like eerily similar of a fireworks display. Both towers you look at live now, black smoke billowing. I'm being handed some information right now. The World Trade Center was built to withstand full force impact from a Boeing 727. That's the largest plane in the air at this time. Jim Dolan handing us that information, and that was at the time when it was built. So at worst case scenario, the Boeing 727 at that time could run into the World Trade Center and it could survive and withstand the full force. Those obviously were smaller than the Boeing 727. There's another look from news. For those of you that might be traveling that are watching this broadcast, LaGuardia Airport and Kennedy Airport are now closed. Both those airports are closed. The FBI now is reporting to the Associated Press that this is foul play. This is not an accident. The FBI has told the Associated Press that two planes that have gone into the World Trade Center are not by accident, that it is foul play involved. I speculated earlier and certainly questioned earlier that perhaps navigational equipment might have been disrupted or harmed that would cause two planes to take such a tack. John Del Giorno, who is one of our flight experts, he is a News Chopper 7. And John, good to have you on the line. John, what can you tell us? John, are you with us?
We are currently hovering just north of Midtown Manhattan. We're over the west side of Manhattan here at 79th Street, looking south towards the World Trade Center. Just an absolutely staggering sight as both towers of the World Trade Center are currently billowing in smoke. The chronology of events as we've been hearing them right now is that at approximately 8:45 this morning, an airplane traveling from north to south struck the north tower here of the World Trade Center, very near the top, near the 80th floor from what we are hearing, creating that gaping hole that you see in the north side of the building. Shortly after that, as the first building was engulfed in flames, we were on our way to the scene and we witnessed a second airplane from what I believe in my experience to be a Boeing 737 strike the south side of the second tower, the south tower, and that is the second row of flames that you see here. That airplane appeared to hit a little bit down the building around the 50th or 60th floor. Again, it struck flush into the south side of the South World Trade Center building. And this is actually here appears to be debris that has passed through the building and is currently on fire. As far as air traffic in the New York metropolitan area, we can tell you what we're hearing from air traffic control is that all operations at the New York airports, being Newark, John F. Kennedy International, and LaGuardia Airport, all air traffic operations has been suspended. As far as other aircraft traffic right now, us included, we are being kept at a distance of 5 miles from the site of this absolute disaster. We cannot get a good look at what is happening on the ground, but again, initial eyewitness reports from the scene stated that actually very little of the debris from the airplane fell down to the street. Most of it appears to be embedded in the buildings here, both World Trade Center number 1 and World Trade Center number 2.
John, can you hear me? John Del Giorno, we might have some problems, they told me, with communication. Can you hear me, John? Okay, John can't hear me. Of course, you might remember February 1993, the World Trade Center bombing, and that to that point was perhaps one of the worst disasters in New York City. Worst acts of terrorism, to be sure, and as you know, terrorism attacks normally happen in twins. This certainly, as the FBI has already confirmed, is a terrorist attack. It is foul play. The FBI has told the Associated Press. I'm just being told that the New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated. That word from our Money Scope reporter Jill Bennett. New York Stock Exchange is being evacuated. Murray Bergstrom High School is being closed. Bellevue Hospital, I'm being told right now, is now the command post for injuries. Bellevue Hospital is the command post. That's all we know right now to handle injuries, to handle the triage. LaGuardia, Kennedy airports have been closed. I've not heard a word on Newark Airport. 8:45 is the time of the first accident. We've had it about within 3 minutes, and then that would make it 21 minutes later. A second plane, as John said, with his flight experience, a Boeing 737 striking the South Tower. The other, of course, the North Tower. Information being handed to me right now. If you pause just for a moment, a senior government official speaking on condition of anonymity said the agency right now, the FBI, is pursuing reports that one or both of the planes were hijacked. These planes were hijacked and that the crashes may have been the result of a suicide mission. The source stressed that the reports are preliminary and officials do not know the cause of the crashes. It certainly doesn't look like an accident, said a second government official, also speaking on a condition of anonymity. Again, the FBI, a senior government official, speaking on condition of anonymity, said both planes were hijacked and were flown intentionally on a suicide mission into the World Trade Centers. Again, it has not been confirmed by the White House, and all three airports are now closed. All three airports now closed. We have eyewitnesses on the phone. We also have Lori Stokes, my tag team partner. Lori, why don't you give me a break right here and bring us up to date with anything that you might know, and I'll be down there in a moment.
All right, to reiterate, Steve, and also to just recap and to add some more information, as we've heard some witness accounts as this happened at 8:45. One eyewitness saying that they noticed that they saw one plane that was listing back and forth from wingtip to wingtip shortly before it apparently did crash into the north side of building number 1. And then, as John Del Giorno just talked about a few minutes ago, from his eye and his expertise, being able to tell that it was a Boeing 737 was apparently the second aircraft that went into the second tower on the south side. As we also understand, as you also talked about, Steve, just minutes ago, all operations, according to the New York metropolitan area, as far as flights coming in, going out, that would be Newark. That would be Newark, LaGuardia, as well as Kennedy. All of the operations have been suspended thus far. Of course, that would be natural, seeing as though what has just happened within the last hour or so. Jim Dolan, of course, with us here in the studio as Steve Bartlestein makes his way down. We have Jim, and let's talk about, because certainly this is all just happening in such a rapid fashion.
Yeah, but it is typical in the way of terrorist acts often happen. You often see this in Israel. There'll be one attack, and then there'll be one bomb explosion, for example, Lori, and then there'll be several minutes that go by, and emergency service people come to the scene and try to rescue those people who are injured and try to save those people who are not killed, and then another bomb goes off as if to kill those people who came in to help as well. It's the cynical way in which terrorism often works. It appears that that could be the way this has happened as well. One plane goes into the first building, several minutes go by, emergency services people come to the scene, and then another terrorist attack.
And of course, for it to begin and to start when it hit at 8:45, for us to initially believe this was an accident.
It certainly let us speculate that it might not be terrorism. It could be something else. It could be an accident. It could be, I remember one of the people you had on the air, Steve, was talking about the possibility that it could have been the flyer, the pilot of the plane might have been drunk because of the way the plane was listing. So it let us think that that was a possibility for a while. When the second plane hit, didn't seem to be any question left. This was a planned, well-planned out terrorist attack, and that, of course, is what the FBI and the feds are confirming for us now.
Well, Jim, we were just talking upstairs, and Lori, I know that you've covered all these as well, probably more so than I. Oftentimes, these twin terrorist attacks, they do happen in twos, and such as the embassy bombings in Africa.
Yep.
That's certainly looking like that's the way it was.
And in that particular case, that was designed, 2 explosions at the nearly the very same time, was designed to get the message out. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't isolated. We have our fingers everywhere. We can control your destiny, and we will make an impact. And that is what they were trying to get across in the twin embassy attacks. And we'll have to wait and see what the message was supposed to be here. But let me just point out, and this was also the case in the original World Trade Center explosion. Many people see those Twin Towers as an example across the world, around the world, as an example of American capitalism, as an example of American might and power. They are a very strong, a very vulnerable symbol to the rest of the world and to the United States, and that could be why they were targeted this time.
Great point.
And you have to look how meticulously this appears to have taken place as well.
It really does. When the World Trade, and this is one of those things, and we're looking again at the second explosion right there on tape, on the south side. During the World Trade Center trial, it came out that the buildings were originally designed to withstand the full impact of a 727 aircraft. They were designed to continue to stand if a 727 crashed into it, because the 727 was the largest plane in the air at that time. So this was well planned out. These were large aircrafts. It was not a mistake. And just think of how expensive this operation was. Very few terrorist organizations could afford that.
Immediately, and not to speculate, but immediately Osama bin Laden has got the money to do something like that. But you automatically think, I would imagine, asking both of you the question, there are very few countries that plan suicide attacks. They may have other forms of terrorism. Suicide attacks would certainly send intelligence to certain parts of the country if they didn't have it already.
Osama bin Laden, of course, is the former Afghan freedom fighter, a billionaire by all accounts, who is maybe #1 on America's list of terrorism exporters. They believe he was involved in the attack on the American vessel in the Middle East several months ago, and
the embassy attacks too.
The embassy attacks as well, and yeah, he springs immediately to mind.
We have also, let's go back to John Del Journal. John, you're still obviously having to keep your distance, but bring us up to date. John, are you there?
John is
certainly can hear.
He's taken our signal, they were telling me, off the radio.
All right, we're understanding
Once again, we're live over the west side of Manhattan. We're up around 79th Street, about 5 miles north of the World Trade Center. And again, to recap the events here this morning as we are assembling them, mostly from eyewitness reports, one of our sister helicopters for Metro Traffic was flying in the vicinity here around 8:45 this morning when the pilot witnessed an airplane crash into the North Tower of the World Trade Center. That airplane was traveling from north to south, and the pilot believes that it was an ATR aircraft. That's a commuter-type airplane. It's a twin-engine prop airplane that can carry anywhere between 50 people up over 100 people for that aircraft. That airplane crashed flush into the north side of World Trade Center, of the north building of the World Trade Center, and the building proceeded to go up in flames. The top 20 floors of the building currently engulfed in smoke. Approximately 15 minutes after that occurred, we were en route to the scene, and an airplane passed over our head from south to north, and this was a Boeing 737 aircraft that crashed flush into the south side of the south building. So we have 2 airplanes that struck each building of the World Trade Center. The north building was struck on approximately the 80th floor. My estimation is that the south building, which is what you're looking at now, that was struck at approximately between the 50th and 60th floors. Again, initial eyewitness reports said that these first airplanes, the first one flew directly over Manhattan and right into the north face of the World Trade Center building. Meanwhile, these fires, obviously very difficult to extinguish for the fire department. I'm not even sure if they can get equipment up that high in the building. This smoke, obviously, on a beautiful, clear day in Manhattan, is visible for miles and miles around. It is also worth noting that as far as we can tell, the airspace around New York City, as far as commercial traffic goes, that airspace has been shut down. All operations at Newark International Airport, John F. Kennedy International Airport, and LaGuardia Airport, those operations they've been ground to a halt by the FAA. Also, Teterboro Airport for local commuter traffic, that has been closed down as well. So it appears as though all air traffic in the vicinity is immediately shut down. The fires continue to burn out of control in World Trade Center #1 and World Trade Center #2.
John, let me ask you a question. You had said the 737, pardon me on my ignorance. How many folks does that seat, do you know?
37 aircraft, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm working on the radio equipment to hear your questions, because obviously much of the media equipment in New York is based right here in the World Trade Center. So a lot of the local TV signals, radio signals, two-way radio, AM, FM channels, many of those signals in New York City have...
2 airplanes.
All right, right now we're going to interrupt. We're going to go to the president. He's talking about what has just happened.
In an apparent terrorist attack on our country. I have spoken to the Vice President, to the Governor of New York, to the Director of the FBI, and have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
President clearly shaken, I think one can say, confirming what we think we all knew, which was that 2 aircraft in an act of terrorism crashed into the twin trade towers. Nobody was quite certain about the first one at the very outset, but the president absolutely, having talked to the Vice President, the Governor of New York, the Director of the FBI, now believing and confirming that we have 2 terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, and the President saying the 2 things which a President must say at a moment like this. Terrorism will not stand, which is an important thing for him to say, but not always necessarily effective. And God bless the victims and their families. John Miller, what are you picking up?
All right, we were just listening to Peter Jennings, ABC newsman, talking about what the President of the United States just said, as he not only, of course, asked for a moment of silence, as we have yet to get any casualties in this matter, with 2 explosions caused by planes going into both towers of the World Trade Center. But the President did talk about that, that the government will produce all resources that it has in order to not only comfort the victims, should there be obviously some, also, but to get down to the matter of this and those who perhaps, if indeed this was an act of terrorism, who caused this. On the phone, we have an eyewitness, is that correct?
Yeah, Jim Gartenberg joins us. He was on the 86th floor of, I'm not sure which tower. Was it the north or south, Jim?
It's the World Trade Center 1, and it's not was. I am here, and I'm stuck right now.
Now, are you above, Jim, or below?
I have no idea. I have no idea where the plane hit. It's my understanding that it's a plane.
Jim, there are 2 planes. One went into one tower, one went into the other tower. What do you see around you? I mean, are you in smoke? Are you in fire? I mean,
the first thing that I want to make clear is that I'm stuck on the 86th floor. A fire door has trapped us. Debris has fallen around us, and part of the core of the building is blown out.
How many people are with you, Jim?
I'm with one other person, and I'm told that people are aware of this. I'm on the 86th floor on the east side of the building facing the East River.
And what time did you get?
I'm on the air. I want to tell anybody that has a family member that may be in the building that the situation is under control for the moment, and the danger has not increased. So please, all family members, take it easy.
Jim, one of our producers, too, if you'd call NYPD and let them know exactly where Jim and that other person is trying to 86th floor.
86th floor on the east side of the building facing the river.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
There are 2 of us here.
Okay, Jim, we're trying to try to make sure that we can alert everybody, and also it's good that you did mention that families should, to some extent, to have some calm right now. What time did you get to work?
I got to work around 8 o'clock this morning, and I think this happened around 8:45.
It did. Describe what you felt.
I felt just the whole building. I heard a noise, felt the whole building shake, and saw glass blown out. The glass on my floor was blown out from the inside of the building out, rather than the exterior windows being blown out.
And what
glass fully shattered, and just the core of the building, the interior core of part of the building collapsed. Hello?
We just want to pass it, Jim, hang right there with 1 second. For folks that are in New York City, all bridges and tunnels in and out of the city have now been closed by the NYPD. I'm sure security measures to be taken if perhaps there are folks that are still in the city that are suspects.
Fire stairs are blocking our exit. I don't know where the stairs are, but I couldn't get to it. And I would want to pass the debris on my own without it. Patricia and I, the elevators are blown out. There's a shaftway in between.
Talking to. In the meantime, let's go back to Jim Dolan as we talk about what's just happened. Jim.
And again, another reason for closing the bridges and tunnels, besides the possibility of suspects, Steve, might also be they are concerned about another terrorist attack. Again, we talked earlier about the symbolism of the World Trade Center. Let's talk also about how vulnerable some people believe those tunnels to be. We have seen reports over the last several years that the tunnels are very strong. It took an enormous explosion. They're not taking any chances today. After 2 explosions in the World Trade Center, again, these are symbols of American capitalism, of the power of New York and the United States. Right. They don't want to take any chances.
Okay, let's go to Joe Torres, who's on the phone with us. Joe?
Laura, yeah, I'm on a payphone at the corner of Barclay and, bear with me, I can't see too much, West Broadway. Standing close, very close to FBI officers, NYPD, who are in touch with the command center and said they have an understanding and information, and I don't know if you've reported this because I've been unable to watch the coverage, that another plane is en route towards both towers. Officers left and right running by me away from the building. We're in a safe location, but as debris continues to fall from the buildings and flames shoot out the sides, they are on very much a high alert and just looking upwards to see what, if anything, is going to happen. I can't begin to tell you the difficulty, the painfulness it is to watch this unfold. As you look at these towers, the landmarks of the New York skyline, with smoke and flames shooting out of them, debris pouring out, and then occasionally passing by us now, Commissioner Carrick, and he won't have any time for me.
The question is, let me put you on.
Say again, Steve.
Let me talk to Jim Dolan here for 1 moment. Stay with us. Jim, if a third plane is indeed, and this is certainly speculation, on its way, what would be the plan of attack? Would you take that plane out before it got to that point?
They're making those decisions as they go. There may not be another a plan in place for this kind of a situation. The question may be, what's its target? What is its target? Is it going for the World Trade Center again, or is there some other building? Joe, what I'm curious about, Joe, are you with us?
Joe? Thank you.
Joe Torres.
Hello, I'm sorry, Jim.
Hey, Joe, let me just ask you about this third plane, the possibility of this third plane. Have they spotted this plane? Do we know?
Listen to video. Sorry, Glenn. Sorry, Jim.
That's okay. Joe, do we know if they've actually seen this third plane or whether there was a phone call in that warned of a third plane? Do you know where that information comes from?
No, I was standing next to an officer as he related to FBI agents who were coming out of their offices located here in Lower Manhattan. I just saw Commissioner Carrick. Could you just see if you
Well, I'm sure there's no question that if they have information that there is a third plane, they are taking every precaution possible, and I would not want to be a plane in this coverage area, in this area right now, flying in a place they should not be flying.
And then comes too the reports of one possibly being hijacked and whether or not someone could be in that third.
Joe?
Yeah, no, again, it was strictly radio information from a quite energized police officer who got information relayed to him to take precautions. I don't know how that information came across, if it was information over a radio, if it was actually an eyewitness or another officer in another location, but I'm sure police are certainly manning all radio frequencies, but again, how that information came across, Jim, I couldn't tell you, because it was more here for the people here, a precautionary measure to just get out of the way.
Joe, does it seem like police and emergency services have things under control there, or is it still quite chaotic?
Yeah, they've surrounded a blocked off a 2-block area. It's just police, emergency, fire officials that are pouring in from every direction. FBI agents, we've seen Secret Service agents coming out of their offices as well, just coming out of the buildings to because they've been instructed to do so, because they don't know what's going to happen next.
Any chance
I think the surrounding blocks around World Trade seem to be blocked off, and I only see emergency personnel. But nonetheless, they have as many questions as we do.
But what about just people that are in the area around you, Joe? People who are coming out of buildings. Have you been able to talk with them at all?
We've talked to only a few because either most had not made their way to the offices or had gone out through another entrance. Keep in mind, it's very difficult for us to move around. We get to a location where we can get the most information. We kind of stick where we are. And then, of course, we've got numerous police officers telling us where to go and where not to go. So we're just trying to stay close to NYPD, close to FBI, because if we know we're close to them, then we are safe as well.
All right, Joe, hang in there for 1 second. We want to go to Nina Pineda.
Work in the office buildings have come out. We've seen a few. We talked to one gentleman also briefly. Said he worked in World Trade, was down in the lobby at the time of his explosion. Talked to us for 2 seconds before he couldn't go on any longer because he felt his colleagues were upstairs and was wondering about their...
All right. Thank you, Joe. Hang with us there, Joe, for a moment. Daily population just handed this note, 50,000 to 70,000 workers in the World Trade Center at any given time. That's certainly what the average is. Nina Pineda standing by at Broadway and Chambers, I believe. Nina?
Steve, and we were just moved back about 3 blocks. We were right near the World Trade Center when police in riot gear practically started pushing the crowd back and screaming there was going to be another explosion. They were having reports that there was another plane in the air. It was truly a scene of chaos and panic as they tried to move the crowds back. People have been crying in the streets. There are no phone services down here. People cannot use their cell phones. They can't use their walkie-talkies. There's lines about 20 people long trying to use the telephone to reach loved ones. Some people are trying to reach loved ones that worked in the World Trade, but right now we have people crouching behind cars, police trying desperately to move the crowd back. They moved the crowd back quickly, about 4 or 5 blocks, screaming that there was going to be another explosion. Right now they say their concern is that another plane was in the air. That's what they were being told here on the ground, or that pieces of the World Trade Center were going to begin falling. And from what we see, we are seeing big chunks of the building fall to the ground, and also some horrible, horrible and terrifying witness accounts from people here that saw bodies falling from the building. They said that one gentleman said he saw 4 or 5 bodies falling from the top stories of the World Trade Center, and several people that gave us witness accounts were crying their eyes out, saying it's been terrifying to see the first one, and then they were all watching and saw the second plane impact the second tower. Right now we are still at West Broadway and Chambers as police have formed a line to keep the crowd back, but there is truly a scene of chaos here on the ground as folks are looking in the air afraid for another impact.
All right, Nina, hang tight for a minute. We'll come back to you. Thank you for that update. In the meantime, Jim, let's go back to you because Nina did talk about that third plane being a security operation. What does that mean?
I'm sorry, I was trying to get information about the cause of this crash, and what we are hearing right now, excuse me, Lori, for not answering your question,
okay.
Let me get right to this.
Jim, let me just, we just got word from the first plane. It was hijacked from Boston. That's what you were asking before.
I was.
So
the first plane is hijacked from Boston. And also we want to point out that that third plane that we have talked about was apparently not, it was a security vehicle, it was an airplane vehicle. Let me just tell you real quickly,
you know what, I'm going to interrupt you. We're going to go to ABC Network right now for the very latest. Let's listen.
We did not hear it. In fact, we were trying to figure out from the White House what security precautions they were taking around the White House in the wake of the apparent attacks on the World Trade Center, and we suddenly just saw the smoke rising from behind the old executive office building. We have people on their way there now, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. I mean, we've never seen that kind of smoke coming from anything that would ordinarily occur here.
I must also tell you, Claire, I think if you think about what's behind the EOB there, you're really down in pretty open area. It doesn't look like a place where a building would be on fire.
No, that's right, although there are a number of buildings just behind the old executive office building on G Street that could potentially be on fire, but nothing you would necessarily think of as a target. Apparently, we're also...
Claire, let me interrupt you for a second. We now have fire confirmed at the Pentagon. If John McCarthy at the Pentagon can hear me, John, please get in touch immediately if you can and brief us in there. John McCarthy has actually been evacuated from the Pentagon, and parts of the Pentagon are indeed being evacuated. We want to hold our breath here, it just seems to me, for a second, and not get into a mode that the country is under attack. But we now have 2 attacks on the Twin Trade Tower Center. U.S. buildings, city buildings completely evacuated in New York City. We have this mysterious black smoke at the southwest corner of the White House, which is to say there's something going on behind the old executive office building. We now have a report that fire has been confirmed at the Pentagon. ABC's John McWethy, our Pentagon correspondent, who's been plugging in as quickly to the intelligence and counterintelligence units there this morning, has been temporarily evacuated. But that is as much as we know for sure at the moment. John Miller, go back to what you're hearing on your nets.
Actually, it's interesting. In New York City, they're reporting on what we're seeing here also, essentially trying to tell everybody that heightened security is important now.
John, I apologize. There's a lot of us here. What are we listening to there? Say again. Say again, please. Come here, John.
Reporting that bomb squads are checking out Air Force One.
Good. Try to correct. So we have bomb squads.
I think you're going to see a lot of this, and I think we were talking about this a few minutes ago. In fact, when I was telling you that in New York they were evacuating the municipal building, the United Nations, Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's residence, all potential targets, I suggested to you that shortly in Washington you'll probably be seeing the same kind of reaction at sensitive symbolic locations. And apparently that's become more than a concern, but perhaps a reality.
Okay, we do know, or at least the Associated Press is now reporting, that an aircraft crashed near the Pentagon, and the West Wing of the White House, as Claire Shipman told us, was evacuated amid these threats of terrorism. I guess first of all, let me go to another eyewitness. ABC's Bill Blakemore, one of our senior reporters, has been an eyewitness to the New York incident. Bill, you on the phone?
Yes, I am, Peter.
Go ahead.
I'm down at 12th Street. It looks like we're more than a mile north of this very surrealistic site, and business has completely come to a stop here. Looks like throughout lower Manhattan, people standing in the streets, cell phones aren't working. A few of these phone booths, such as I'm talking to you from now, are working. One man just shaking his head said to me a few moments ago, I was supposed to be at a meeting in the building at 10:30 this morning, and then I saw the second plane hit the tower in this flash of light. There's a complete cessation of regular life. There's one delivery man standing here looking like he doesn't know where to go with this stack of beer crates. So all of lower Manhattan is just standing in the streets on this sunny morning looking at this unrealistic sight in front of us, this gray smoke coming out of the trade centers.
Okay, Bill, talk to as many people as you can. Call us back when you can. Let's return to Washington visually at the moment. Just take a look at that picture. That smoke behind the executive office building, which is right next to the White House, we now believe is from a fire in the courtyard of the Pentagon, or at least where an aircraft appears to have crashed in the general vicinity of the Pentagon. And now the Pentagon is southwest of the White House across the Potomac River, and what we think we may be seeing there, emphasis on think, is smoke in the distance rather than immediately behind the Pentagon. Precautions being taken everywhere. The U.S. Capitol is now being evacuated as a precautionary measure. The U.S. Treasury, according to at least one eyewitness, is being evacuated as a precautionary measure. And there was an explosion outside the Pentagon. And that's an issue of eyewitnesses from both inside and from outside, but we're not quite sure what we're looking at. And we are looking now at Air Force One. We've just been told by ABC's Ann Compton that there's been a serious investigation now, or serious check of Air Force One before the president, who's been in Florida, gets on it and flies back to Washington. All of this, of course, adds to the tension, adds to the fear, but all of it makes absolute common sense. And there is no aircraft in the world, to the best of my knowledge, which is given as intense security as Air Force One, which is what any aircraft the president flies on is designated, of course, wherever it is in the world. And today it's been at Sarasota in Florida. I want to get somebody to fix some monitors here for me, please. I want this monitor in front of me here to look like that monitor, so I know what I'm looking at. Right.
Welcome back to our coverage of the bombing, certainly right here, the terrorism attacks with two planes heading into the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. The West Wing of the White House, I've just told, was just been evacuated just now. So that brings us up to date. And Jim Dolan, you started to talk about what...
This also after a plane going into the Pentagon.
Right.
That report that we're getting. So the nation's capital is also being rocked by this at this moment. Jim, before we went to the network, you were continuing a thought.
We just wanted to report that Abu Dhabi Television is reporting today, this morning, that a group called the Palestinian DXLP is taking credit, is taking responsibility for these 2 attacks on the World Trade Center. It is the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine. It's a group with a history of violence, and they are taking credit. We want to point out that there's no confirmation that they were responsible for this, and they fully expect other groups will come forward to talk about this and to take credit for it, to take responsibility for it. But so far, the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine taking responsibility for the 2 attacks on the World Trade Center today.
If you're just joining us, the second plane, we got information just before going to network, was hijacked from Boston, the second plane. Don't know where the first one's coming from yet. I'm sure that'll be confirmed later on.
And when you talk about this particular organization, Jim, any relationship or any connection which exists to Osama bin Laden?
In fact, at points at odds with Osama bin Laden, but certainly have the same general goals in mind, and certainly neither one of them any friends to the United States. But also in the past we have heard that Osama bin Laden's organization was much more well financed, much more well organized. It appears that this group is proven that to be untrue.
And of course, this day started off where our top story was this being primary day.
Right.
That was what everyone was talking about. So many hotly contested campaigns going on, races going on, particularly deciding who would be the front runners for the mayoral. But now Dave Evans is joining us with word of things may be shifting on that front.
I just got off the phone with some executives at the Board of Elections downtown. They are considering right now, and they're researching whether this can be done, whether the primary vote can be canceled. It is certainly no decision has been made, and voting continues as we speak right now, but they're looking at whether this can be done. In the general election, there is a provision under the city's law that a vote can be canceled. Under the general election, of course, what we're talking about is November, the main vote in November. You can go ahead and cancel that under city law if there is a fire, if there is a flood. It even says if there is an act of sabotage. So there is that provision within the city law under the general election. So what they're looking at right now is whether that law for the general election can be applied to right now to the primary vote. So that's what they're looking at right now. They've had to go ahead and close 6 different precincts at the Financial Center, which is just a few blocks away from the World Trade Center. So there is the concern that a lot of people can't even vote now because their precincts are simply closed because of the evacuation of a lot of buildings downtown.
Let me pause just for
a
minute. Every airport in the United States has now been closed. Every airport in the U.S. has been closed.
Along with in New York, the LIRR, subways, Metro North are all shut down. No service into or out of the city, and of course the tunnels into the city are closed as well.
And bridges as well.
Any possible vessel that could be used as another means of some type of terrorist act.
Not only means, but as a target. They want to make sure that everybody is locked down for the time being to make sure everything is safe. Obviously, the tunnels, again, we keep talking about the symbolism, but the subway tunnels, again, another symbol of New York. And they want to make sure all of those are safe.
All right, and then of course we're talking about Washington with this latest attack that went on with the Pentagon building and the significance, of course, of Washington, D.C. when you're hitting these particular buildings, having, as you mentioned, the West Wing of the White House also evacuated. It's looking more and more as if everything is becoming shut down. Period.
The Pentagon, too, as you well know, is protected almost fortress-like. So many of the chiefs and many of the people, the higher-ups, are down below where they cannot be. So I would assume that some of the... Let's go to Michelle Charlesworth now live on the West Side Highway. Dave, we'll come right back to you, Michelle. Michelle, can you hear me?
Michelle? Let's come back to her in a minute.
Okay.
All right, Dave, why don't you go ahead and finish some of your thoughts. What time are they supposed to have this meeting? Are they discussing now?
They're discussing it right now as we speak. Of course, voting is supposed to continue until 9 o'clock tonight in the city. And they realize this is, of course, of secondary importance to everything that's going on right now. They're very concerned at the Board of Elections about their personnel, about the people who may have been in some of these precincts, which are very close to the World Trade Center or in the World Trade Center. So that's their concern right now. Probably, I would think, here in the next hour or so, we will get word from the Board of Elections on what they're going to do about the primary vote. But this is, as they said, of secondary importance right now to what's going on at the World Trade Center right now. But there is the possibility that they could go ahead and cancel this vote. I'll keep you posted on what's happening. I think we probably should know something here in the next hour.
Well, if you said that, certainly there's no precedence for this happening, but I would think common sense would certainly allow it to, move over from the general election, that type of a rule.
All right, let's go back to Michelle Charlesworth now on West Side Highway. Can you hear us now, Michelle?
Are there any people on board?
Michelle?
We've been watching this unfold. We came down here about 30 minutes ago. We're on the West Side Highway, just north of Canal Street. Now, about 45 minutes ago, the city shut down the southbound lanes of the West Side Highway so that emergency crews only, fire trucks, NYPD trucks, could get down here. I don't know if we can swing over and show as this aftermath unfolds and the plumes of smoke behind me billow from the World Trade Center. People are literally getting away the only way they can, on foot. People have been walking by here with their hands over their mouths and screaming at each other to try to borrow cell phones, but there's no way to get away from here because the bridges and tunnels have been closed. They've been asking me whether or not the Hudson, whether there was any way to get out of the city, and of course there is some concern as to what could be in the smoke. That's the question most of the people have been asking me. What could possibly be in the smoke? They're listening to their radios. President Bush, of course, saying that this is apparently a terrorist attack on our country, and now the latest word from Washington that possibly the Pentagon has been hit by the same kind of attack. There have been some witnesses actually who came by here who said that it was definitely one plane and then another within minutes of each other hitting the World Trade Center towers, the North Tower, then the South Tower, and that from what they could see, this was definitely no accident. In the words of President Bush again, apparently a terrorist attack on our country. And I don't know if we can show more and more ambulances moving all the way down the south side of the West Side Highway. This has been closed now for about an hour. Of course, this whole thing unfolding about an hour ago, not even an hour ago. But I will continue to let you know what's going on here. We are, again, just north of Canal Street on the West Side Highway. The only way people are moving out of here is to walk. You can probably see people carrying their briefcases walking by me. We're live on the West Side Highway. Michelle Charles with ABC News. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. We know that Bellevue Hospital, Celeste Ford told us Bellevue Hospital has been confirmed, is the triage center. It is where they are taking many of the folks admitted. Now, I know there are a lot of folks who have relatives. Only 4 people right now have been admitted. Take that for however that is. If we could also send word to one of our producers there too. The flight from Boston, how many people were on board that flight?
Find out
how many folks were on board that flight as well.
Yeah. And also, all right, let's go to David Usher. Of course, we talked about, he's in our newsroom, we talked about all the airports across the country being shut down, but you've gotten word of other closings, Dave?
Yeah, Lori, we're trying to diffuse through the information that's coming into the newsroom. Some of it you've already reported, but essentially the government officials are trying to go into defensive mode now until they figure out exactly what's happening. And as Jim Dolan explained, they are trying to limit the vulnerability of other places. The Hudson River crossings have been closed, and that, as you can imagine, is creating a bit of commuter chaos. This is a live picture now from the GW Bridge. New Jersey officials say they've gone into an alert mode. They're shutting these down, all of the Hudson River crossings as well. You've already mentioned the airports, not only here in New York City, but across the entire country right now. The FAA announced just a short time ago, again, until they can sort through exactly where the vulnerability is and what's going on, all airports are shut down. All subways, especially going into, I should say, subways going into the World Trade Center area, obviously not doing that. Schools in the World Trade Center area right now have been evacuated, but as of right now, the Board of Ed has not made a decision on any other schools. All New York City firefighters have been asked to report to duty. And as you've mentioned already, the stock market is closed as well. That's the latest here. We're continuing to follow all of these as they come in, and we'll get them to you and to the viewers. But the main thing right now, apparently, is to stay where you are, because as Michelle Charlesworth also mentioned, emergency vehicles coming from all over the city. We're here on the Upper West Side. We can hear them screaming down towards there on the World Trade Center, so it'll be best to just stay out of their way. Back to you in the studio.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, David. I just want to go back to you, Jim, as we talk about all these various operations shutting down, from the airports to schools to the financial district, and hearing David talk about how vulnerable all of these areas are. It does give you a sense of feeling, not necessarily helpless, but you are wondering what might be the next area that is vulnerable.
Well, you know, and because of that, the thing that David said that maybe was most important is just stay home. You're not going to get anywhere anyway. Just stay home, stay safe, and be as relaxed as you can be.
These are
the
live
World
pictures.
Trade Center.
Something else has just happened at the World Trade Center. As you can see,
one of the towers.
One of the towers either has come down, perhaps something else has happened. The billow of smoke that we have not seen. The tower is down completely, according to our producer. The side of the tower has come down onto the street. the way that the smoke is billowing here, Lloyd,
right,
that is blocks and blocks. So if they even had them back just a couple of blocks.
And just to point
We're
out,
looking from Staten Island right now.
and they were back a good distance. They were back a good distance from that in case this kind of thing happened. But keep in mind, remember the attack on the World Trade Center in February of 1993 was designed, they pointed out during the trial, to bring down the towers. In fact, to bring down both of them. It appears that this time one of the towers is down, and they again had people a good distance away from this.
Jim, the building collapsed, I've just been told.
It has collapsed. Let's go now to Peter Jennings and the network to listen to the very latest.
Not there anymore.
That should be it.
Thanks very much,
Completely
Dan.
collapsed.
The whole side has
The
collapsed?
whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
That's the southern tower you're talking about.
Exactly. The second building that we witnessed the airplane enter had been, the top half had been fully involved in flame. It just collapsed. There is panic on the streets. Thousands of people running up Church Street, which is what I'm looking out on, trying to get away. But the entire, at least as far as I can see, the top half of the building, at least half of it, I can't see below that, half of it just started with a gigantic rumble, folded in on itself, and collapsed in a huge plume of smoke and dust.
We were talking about massive casualties here at the moment, and we have, that is extraordinary.
There is panic on the streets. There are people screaming and running from the site. The gigantic plume of smoke has reached me, and I'm probably a quarter of a mile north of there.
Peter.
Now this is what it looked like moments ago. My God. The southern tower. 10 o'clock Eastern Time this morning, just collapsing on itself. This is a place where thousands of people work. We have no idea what caused this. If you wish to bring anybody who's ever watched a building being demolished on purpose knows that if you're going to do this, you have to get at the under infrastructure of a building and bring it down.
Peter?
Yes, Dan.
What appeared to happen from my vantage point, the top part of the building was totally involved in fire, and there appeared to be no effort possible to put that fire out. It looked like the top part of the building was so weakened by the fire that the weight of it collapsed the rest of the building. That's what appeared to happen. I did not see anything happening at the base of the building. It all appeared to start at the top and then just collapse the rest of the building by the sheer weight of the top. There was no explosion or anything at the base part of it, but I did see that the top part of it started to collapse. The walls started to bulge out, bricks, glass things coming out, and then it collapsed in on itself, and it appeared to just fold down from there, from the very top.
Thanks, Don, very much. Just looking at that, I don't know why, but when was the last time the United States was attacked in this fashion? It was Pearl Harbor in 1941. John?
From the scene now, there's obviously massive casualties. Usually during these things, there's a little bit of a high pitch, but basic calm over the police radios among the emergency workers. I can hear them screaming, signal 1013, which is the police code for help, calling for help at the triage center, where other people who were already injured have been injured more. Confirming that the building has collapsed. Dozens of officers, more civilians are injured. And we don't know, although I'd have to suggest, given the size of that building, what progress the evacuation was in of the tower that collapsed.
Yes, Pierre Thomas.
One thing I might add is that in recent years, the U.S. government has been preparing for massive attacks, but it's been primarily focused on biological, often bombing attacks. One of the things I have not heard discussed at all in government circles is the notion that someone would hijack a plane and perhaps fly it into a building. So One of the questions that I'm sure that will come out of this, if this indeed is a terrorist attack, is what kind of defenses did the U.S. have in place to deal with an event like this?
Well, we talked about that even, Pierre, just before you came and joined us, because at the Emergency Management Center, which is just literally in the same complex as the trade towers, they talk at great length about their preparations for a biological, a chemical warfare attack, how they closed tunnel. I mean, they've been very efficient, taken it very seriously for many years. I'd be a little surprised if the notion of an airborne attack on a United States target had not been discussed, but the notion of the intelligence services knowing absolutely nothing of what is going on today and saying openly right away they had no warnings whatsoever is, and you say something very important, if this is a terrorist attack. We just keep saying that on a repeated basis. Not having any notion whatsoever of what's going on is to be reminded not only of the efficiency of terrorism, but just reminded of the efficiency of terrorism at this point.
It's ironic. There's a chilling story. Lou Shalero of the FBI, who was part of the capture of Ramzi Youssef, who was the mastermind of the last bombing of the World Trade Center, told me this story, that he was flying over the World Trade Center in a helicopter with the suspect Ramzi Youssef next to him after he was captured in Pakistan. And as they passed over, Lou Shalero nudged him and said to Ramzi Youssef, you see, it's still standing. And Ramzi Youssef smiled and said to the FBI's assistant director, it wouldn't be if I'd had more money. This was...
In other words, more money to buy explosives, more money to run a more efficient operation than the one he ran from New Jersey in '93.
Exactly. And I mean, we may have seen the second coming of that plan.
John McWethy is on the phone at the Pentagon. Hold up, let me just... John McWethy, we've now heard reports that 3 planes have been hijacked today. Can you confirm that? Jack McWethy at the Pentagon? Okay, then let me go quickly to someone named Don Wright, who saw the plane crash into the Pentagon. Don, are you there in Washington?
Yes, I am.
Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, it was about 9:35, and I was looking out our 12th floor windows at 1600 Wilson Boulevard in Rosslyn, Virginia, and I watched this. It looked like a commuter plane, 2-engine, come down from the south, real low, proceed right on and crash right into the Pentagon.
Went directly into the Pentagon?
That is correct.
Looked like a deliberate act?
A deliberate act, sir.
And can you tell me what direction it came from, Don?
It came from the south.
Came from the south, up along the river, across the land?
It came from the south.
Okay, and did you happen to look at your watch? We thought it was just a little bit before 10 o'clock.
Well, I was watching ABC News, watching the Twin Tower, and about the time I saw the plane, I watched it come in very low over the trees, and it just dipped down, came down right over 395, right into the Pentagon.
And are you fairly sure that it was what we sometimes describe and recognize as a small commuter plane?
Yes, it was.
Good, Don. Thank you very much. Appreciate your help. Don Wright, an eyewitness to the crash.
As we continue to bring you the very latest information, we're going back and forth, vacillating between the network and, of course, our coverage here. Bill Ritter now with me, Steve Bartlestein, who has been with you this morning, bringing you all the latest information. 2 things. One, it was just 7 minutes ago that we saw the South Tower go down in a collapse right in the middle. Earlier, we had spoken to a witness and someone who was inside the tower talking about the damage that was sustained, particularly within the core. Anytime you know that the core has been damaged, there's not too much then to hold up. Also, the other information, this is the second one, the south side, which was hit, was the one that was hit from the flight 11, which was an American airline, number 11, out of Boston, bound for L.A., and that's the second one that was hit.
And we do not know, we should re-emphasize, we do not know why the second tower collapsed, whether it was, as the expert was talking to you and Steve and Jim, Lori, whether because the core of the building was damaged or whether because of some other kind of detonating device. We just do not know. We have reporters on the ground. Let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, there are times in our lives that are life-changing, where your life can never be the same, and this appears certainly to be one of them. When that second tower went down, we have reporters on the scene. Other media have reporters on the scene. There are thousands of workers down there. We do not know their status. We do not want to scare anyone, but we are, in fact, trying to ascertain the safety. There are, as you can see, we're getting reports. These are jet fighters. They appear to be. We can't confirm this, but we are getting word from our control room. These are U.S. jet fighters in the air around the Manhattan area. As you know, all airports around the country, not just in the tri-state, all airports around the country have been shut down as a precautionary measure. We have reporters on the ground. One of them is Michelle Charlesworth, who you heard from just a few moments ago. Michelle, where are you and what do you see?
I'm not going to be able to communicate with you. You'll be able to hear me, but I can't hear you. We're on the West Side Highway, and I am sad to report that we actually watched the entire South Tower of the World Trade Center come down, screams from everyone on the sidewalks as they thought that perhaps another plane had slammed into the side of these buildings. We're hearing late reports that there might be fighters, U.S. fighters in the air, patrolling the area, of course, the bridges and the tunnels. That's a confirmation. There's one right above me. Bridges and tunnels have been shut down. The only way to leave the city at this point is on foot, and everyone from the World Trade Center area has been moving through here. I can only hope that people got out of that area. I'm pointing up to show the fighters right now. I can only hope that people got out of the area on the sidewalks below the South Tower before it came tumbling down. But it literally exploded and came down as though it had been hit. Plumes of smoke moving out into the harbor. Can we see how many fighters there are up there? There's one fighter. One fighter. As far as we know, there is nothing left of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. There were reports elevators weren't working. Obviously no way to get out of the building aside from the stairway. You can see the smoke all over this area, and to give you some idea where I am, I'm approximately, what, 20, 30 blocks from where this latest explosion just happened. The West Side Highway southbound has been filled with emergency vehicles. It's shut off except for NYPD vehicles and fire trucks. Again, the South Tower of the World Trade Center just coming down right in front of us. We watched it happen just moments ago and actually got video of it, so we'll be showing you that. Reporting live on the West Side Highway in Manhattan, Michelle Charlesworth, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Right, Michelle, thank you. Right now, we're going to show you some where you can just, Michelle has just been talking about the plumes, and obviously the visual speaks for itself. This is Center Street, looking at all the people that have been out onto the streets, the cars that are still trying to get through. We've talked to some degree when we were talking to Joe Torres a little bit earlier, and he was talking about some of the people that were standing around, some of them panicking and trying to get out of buildings.
They look like they're pretty calm.
They do.
Right way to behave in this kind of situation.
Absolutely.
We are also trying to stay even keel here. Obviously, this is a very emotionally upsetting situation. There are thousands and thousands of workers in and around that downtown area, not just in the 110-story World Trade Center. We are getting some more information as we heard the fighter, at least one fighter jet that Michelle Charlesworth saw patrolling the area. Jim Dolan is joining us here also, has been here all morning. Jim, what did you find out about, what have you heard about this, another hijacked plane?
Well, I want to point out that the other hijacked plane may have come out of Newark, New Jersey. They are telling us, they're reporting to the Associated Press on condition of anonymity. We also want to point out, we talked earlier about the group called the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine. On Abu Dhabi TV, that group has taken responsibility for these explosions against the World Trade Center. If they are right, if that is true, and it has not yet been confirmed, it would be their first attack against the United States. We mentioned that they have at times been at odds with Osama bin Laden on that philosophical point in particular. It appears that that they have changed that. This would be, if it is confirmed later that they were responsible, this would be their first attack against the United States. Those fighter bombers that we spoke about earlier that we have seen in the area, that's the cavalry. They are in here now to make sure that the airspace is clear, to make sure that nobody is in that airspace who shouldn't be there, to make sure that there's not a third attack, at least by air.
But when you talk about this organization that has been at odds with Osama bin Laden, at the same time, how powerful, what kind of indication, what has been their past activity, and even a leader?
You know, we're looking into that right now, but one of the things we know is that in the past, we didn't believe that they were well enough financed nor well enough organized in the United States to pull something off like this. It appears that they may have slipped onto the radar screen, at least to that degree.
Yeah, one hijacking could be a stroke of luck. To pull off two and perhaps three
when you consider the one in the Pentagon,
the plane there, although we don't know if that was hijacked yet. Is that correct?
That's true, but there is a confirmed report that a third plane has hit a smaller plane has hit the Pentagon, but we don't know yet if it was hijacked.
It is, of course, one of the realities of living in an open and free democracy and a society. We are not patrolled all the time by the military. We do not usually see fighter pilots and fighter jets patrolling and guarding the skies over Manhattan. You're looking at a live coverage from ABC News, live picture of the Pentagon on fire. A small plane, witnesses say the tail of a plane crashed into the Pentagon about a half hour ago. Is that right, 9:35?
It is, and you can see aircraft that were just flying by just a minute ago, and we also talked about the West Wing of the White House, although the president was not in it, being evacuated as well. The president is in Florida and speaking with a group of children, and earlier came on to talk about prior to this aircraft going into the Pentagon, talking about the Twin Towers and these particular accidents that just happened. We expect him to come back on.
Is it possible to our control room to split this screen so we can give people who are just tuning in to see both pictures?
While they try and do that, let's go to Nina Pineda right now and get another update. Nina?
Here we are right next to City Hall. When the top of the World Trade Center fell, it completely obliterated all of the street with a thick, thick white smoke followed by black smoke. You couldn't see anything, even your hand 2 inches in front of your face, and the next thing you saw were people running out of that smoke, tremendous amounts of people in the crowd running and being cleared by police, advising people to leave Manhattan if possible. That's what's happening here on the ground near City Hall.
Nina, where are you?
We are right behind City Hall in, man, what building is this? 31 Chambers Street, and the police have cleared the area around City Hall as well. They're very alarmed and they're worried about something happening at City Hall, so they moved people back about 6 blocks. That people were running out of the smoke, and you couldn't see anything. The entire street was filled with smoke, and then followed by debris flying. There's the street right now is just littered with shoes, as people literally ran out of their shoes to escape the smoke and debris.
Do you see any injuries on the ground there, Nina?
Not at this where we are right now, but what we did hear from people that were in the World Trade Center on the 56th floor when the explosion happened was there were several people had collapsed, several people had been down on the ground, several people were immobilized and not moving, as well as some people in the Verizon building next to the World Trade Center that reported seeing people, as we told you before, jumping from the building. We don't know if they were falling out of the building from the force of the explosion, but one gentleman described in horror how he saw people jumping out in their suits with their ties flying from the very high floors of the World Trade Center, falling to the ground to their deaths.
It is hard to imagine that the death toll is not high. Nina, I would like you to describe one more time what it felt like when that tower collapsed. What did it feel like to you on the ground there?
We were standing probably about 3 blocks away, advancing toward the scene to try and gather some photos and some videotape, and it felt like the entire ground shook. It felt like what it feels like to be in a earthquake. The ground was shaking, followed by plumes and plumes of overwhelming smoke and flying debris, ash, and pieces of the building. As the ground was shaking,
was there sound with this, Nina?
There's a tremendous booming sound, and then it just felt like a rumbling, but it didn't sound like an explosion. It sounded like a loud rumbling, and then the next thing we saw were the streets. The way the streets looked was just overcome by smoke, just plumes and plumes of smoke, like a bomb had gone off, coming up the street as people were racing to get in front of these clouds of smoke and not doing too good of a job. They were soon obliterated by the smoke, and then we could see them running out. But it advanced probably within seconds, a 5-block radius.
And even choking smoke?
It is. Several people are having asthma attacks. There are several EMS units and police that were stopping to be helped, and we're putting on oxygen masks. It is a choking smoke. It is covered in debris right now. It was fine particles of dust and pieces. And what we were doing when the explosion happened was shooting pieces of the plane. There are pieces of the plane on Church Street, which has now become a crime scene. And we did also there see remnants of people's clothing, as we said before, some shoes, and large pieces of what looked to be pieces of fuselage. And this, amazingly, was about 3 blocks away from the scene. To have these pieces of the plane and the debris fall all the way on Church Street from the World Trade Center. What I'm looking at right now, amazingly, we're looking at the skyline, and it's missing one of the Twin Towers.
Wow. Yeah, we can see that. Nina, how far away past City Hall, did that smoke go?
Oh, it overcame City Hall within moments. Within moments, you couldn't see City Hall at all. We're standing on the sidewalk outside of it. So we're a block past City Hall, and it's pretty clear here right now, but City Hall was consumed in black smoke. You couldn't see a thing.
And police at this time and other officials, their role?
Their role right now was pushing people back. They were very much in a mode where they were trying to get people back from the scene. And the seconds before the explosion happened, there was another renewed kind of interest in really getting people away. Because, of course, out of curiosity, everyone's trying to get close. Everyone's trying to get pictures of the World Trade Center on fire. They started screaming, "Get back, get back. There's another explosion happening." I guess they were being warned on their radios that the top was going to come down since it was burning for the better part of half an hour. As they screamed to get people back, they started screaming, "Leave Manhattan if possible. Everybody leave Manhattan if possible."
Nina, Jim Dolan here. You mentioned earlier that you spoke to somebody who had been evacuated from the 56th floor. Do you have an idea of how far along the evacuation had gotten at the point the second tower came down?
Jim, I was trying to ask her that because I couldn't believe that she was still in the building. But of course, people were getting ready for their day. It was about just before 9 o'clock, and she said that as soon as the smoke alarms and the fire alarms started sounding off in the building, there was panic, and they started retreating through the escapes, through the stairwells. And as they did, everybody was screaming, running. She said, running over each other. There were other people collapsed. There was injured people. And then she said, horrifyingly, when she ran down about 6 flights, she's on the 50th floor, she started seeing other people come down, being helped, advancing past them that were burned. Their bodies were burned. Their clothing was burned. They were unconscious. Their friends and colleagues were trying to help them down the steps. She said you couldn't even imagine what it was like for them to run down from the floors that weren't burned all the way down to the bottom. Some people collapsed when they got outside from exhaustion. Some people are having asthma attacks. And as she said, some people are very gravely and critically injured. They were also being laid out on the sidewalk there by the World Trade Center.
I'm going to move on here. I would like to ask you if you could try to find some people there who are okay, obviously, and who have escaped this, who can tell us some more eyewitness accounts. We'd much appreciate it. We'll get back to you in a few minutes. Stay safe in the meantime. We do want to say that all federal buildings in the country have been shut down, and we're just getting a bulletin from the AP. The State Department, a senior government official says that some sort of possible explosion or fire has occurred at the State Department in Washington. That building has now been evacuated. They say it appears to be connected to the 2 plane crashes at the World Trade Center and the explosion at the Pentagon. John Del Giorno is providing us these pictures you're seeing. We have had problems getting audio from him because our communication is right there on top of that tower. John, can you hear me?
It is hard to describe exactly what we've witnessed here over Manhattan in the last hour and a half. We are still stationed over 79th Street looking south. There's been a 5-mile security perimeter set up around the World Trade Center by the police department. World Trade Center number 2, the North Tower here, continues to burn out of control. And initially, remembering that the first plane hit this building at 8:45 this morning, the second plane hit the south building just at 9 o'clock, and then that building subsequently collapsed shortly after 10 o'clock. We actually witnessed the second plane strike the South Tower. From our vantage point, we were actually southwest of the World Trade Center coming out of our base, and the plane actually flew over our heads and directly flush into the south face of the South Tower and exploded into flames immediately. That tower continued to burn for quite some time, and then again it subsequently collapsed down onto itself. Meanwhile, obviously, the airspace in the area that is all shut down. Newark, Kennedy, and LaGuardia accepting no flights, and there are no departures as well. Teterboro airspace is closed. In essence, the entire airspace around New York City has been closed down. Currently, as far as a perimeter around the area, in the skies, obviously, today you would have to consider the skies a threat, and currently NYPD is operating their helicopters very close to the building, assisting state police agencies. I know New York State Police is down there, New Jersey State Police is down there as well. And interestingly enough, we about 10 minutes ago saw military fighter jets circling above Manhattan at about 2,500 feet, which is obviously something that you don't see here, and that is a security measure to prevent any further action from being taken. So that's the update from the sky right now. World Trade Center, the North Tower, continues to burn out of control, as it has since it was first struck by a plane at 8:45. The South World Trade Center tower has tragically collapsed. Really a momentous day in the history of the world as we witness this on the lower side of Manhattan.
Can you hear us? John, can you hear us?
Yes, I can just about make you out. If you speak slowly enough, I can answer all the questions you have.
Okay, there is a question that I have. We had gotten word that every aircraft that's out right now is being asked to find the nearest airport and to land. And I'm wondering if that in itself doesn't pose another threat.
Well, what they're trying to do right now, that order went out. We heard that order go out from Newark Airport's control tower a few minutes ago. That also has to do with a lot of commercial, with transient traffic, corporate traffic that comes in and out of the city, helicopters, corporate jets going into Teterboro Airport. They are being asked to find an airport outside of the area, find an airport other than Teterboro, Newark, LaGuardia, or Kennedy to go land at if New York City is their destination, because this airspace is immediately closed down.
John?
And as a matter of fact, I can tell you the only reason that we're really being allowed to stay in here is because the controllers know us, they know the end number on the aircraft, they know who we are. But I would venture a guess to say that we also will be removed from the airspace entirely. And I would guess that that's going to happen momentarily. As we said, we saw F-16 fighter jets circling over Manhattan just within the last 15 minutes or so.
John, how much?
Obviously going to set up a very tight perimeter.
John, obviously, it's Bill Ritter. We want you to stay as long as you can and as long as it's safe. You've been it for a long time. I don't know how much gas you have left.
Well, that's another question, because as these events continue to happen, Captain Paul and myself are trying to figure out the best and the safest way to bring this story to you.
Well, you keep yourself safe, John. That's an order from Eyewitness News here. Let me just say, John, I have a question for you about that tower, but first we're getting word from the AP that the State Department, a State Department official, has confirmed that a car bomb exploded outside the State Department. There is obviously a coordinated effort and some sort of assault here on the United States in Washington and New York. We will give you a summary in a second, but John, looking at that North Tower, ABC News is reporting that the fire continues to burn, and it appears that the North Tower may be leaning. Can you tell? It's hard for us to tell through all that smoke.
It is hard to tell from this point, again, because I am exactly 5 miles away from it. But there's the shot of the North Tower, and if you line it up with the buildings down on the ground, Bill, I can't really give you an honest opinion on that. I will tell you that the fire, again, this plane crashed into about the 80th floor, and you'll see a gaping hole in the building. I'll brighten it up for you there. The fire appears to be spreading rather than subsiding. And again, obviously there's firefighting issues trying to get water up that high. But I really can't tell you whether or not the building is leaning or not.
Okay, John, keep us posted. Again, an order from our news director, you be safe out there and try to bring us all the pictures, but also watch your gas tank. Thank you.
All right, let's also go in our newsroom to David Ushery, who's been getting word on other closings in the area. Dave, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Lori. We're getting some, as we see some video here coming in right now, obviously from the scene, developing a very chaotic situation. These from our crews down there, and they have been working diligently. We're getting word of some schools closing, or getting more definition of that, and for parents who may have concerns about that, 3 area high schools have been evacuated. They are Leadership and Public Service, the Economics and Science High School, and both of those are located at 100 Trinity Place, and Murray Bertram, 411 Pearl Street. All other students, we're told, are being kept in the schools under heightened security right now. Parents and only parents are allowed to pick the kids up. Parents and only parents, so we need to stress that. Parents and only parents being allowed to pick the children up. The following schools have been identified now for triage operations for the treatment of the injured. That's Stuyvesant High School, which is at Chambers and West Side Highway, and PS 234, as well as PS 89. We should also note that we are told that Mayor Giuliani will be having a news conference, although of course that's subject to change, but we're told he's going to have it. When he does, we will of course have that for you. One other note, police, heavily armed police now guarding the Port Authority offices and the control tower in Newark. Of course, the airports are closed. PATH commuter trains canceled. New Jersey Transit right now continuing to operate trains into New York's Penn Station, but we're told there's no bus service to the Port Authority. New Jersey State Police have their emergency command center up and running. Right now, city and federal buildings in Newark still open, though, again, heavily fortified. That's the latest now. We're going to continue to monitor these developments, particularly with the schools closing.
The other tower, as you can see, seems to be collapsing, David, as we watch.
Unbelievable.
This is, it's collapsing inward and it's imploding. This is a horrific situation you're watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you are a child watching and you do not have a parent there, I don't know what to advise you. If you can understand this.
It's hard for an adult to understand.
words cannot describe this. The North Tower of the World Trade Center, the second 110-foot structure that marks the landmark, that is a landmark of New York and Manhattan, and indeed the United States, has just collapsed.
And if you look at the timeline in which all of this has taken place in such a short period of time, 8:45 until now at 10:29.
Nina Pineda, can you hear us? Are you on the line at all, Nina? Nina is just a few blocks from there. And we do not have her amidst the chaos. We have not heard from Joe Torres. This is just so tragic that it's sort of
almost
ridiculous to say, to try to talk through this. It is so horrific.
Until today, the worst act of terrorism on American soil was the Until today, the worst act of terrorism on American soil was, of course, the bombing in Oklahoma City, an act of domestic terrorism, as it turned out. It pales, as horrible and as horrifying as it was, it pales in comparison to this.
Jim, these are live pictures, we're told.
You can see the smoke still on the ground, still filling the air there. This is obviously Lower Manhattan. We're trying to get an exact location. These are not live pictures because there was just an edit in there. So
on a Tuesday in September, after Labor Day, the second Tuesday, this is a teeming business district, and it has been turned into chaos. This is earlier. Can we go back to the live pictures if possible?
An hour and a half in which the world in the United States has changed dramatically. Sense of security has changed dramatically as at least 4 separate attacks on American soil against 4 symbols of American might.
You saw the picture of the Empire State Building standing in back of that smoke. John Del Giorno, can you hear me? John Del Giorno, he cannot hear me.
Yeah.
All of the radios are now down. We have lost radio contact with John Del Giorno. The World Trade Center, of course, provides the transmission towers for many of the broadcast, both radio and television.
Located on top
of those World Trade Centers. Those tops, of course, now on the bottom. As Jim said, the biggest act of terrorism, foreign terrorism, was against the World Trade Center on February 26, 1993. 6 people died, 1,000 people were injured in that attack.
And that also was designed, Bill, to bring down the World Trade Center.
It was. Well, someone has done it. A coordinated attack. The timeline, Jim Dolan has the timeline for us.
Well, started at 8:45 this morning when the first plane hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. At the time, we didn't know whether it was an act of terrorism or an act of an errant pilot. Then a few minutes later, 9:03, the second plane hit the South Tower, confirming
that is the second one
that's it right there.
forever
looking at
that this was, and that's a video of that, confirming that it was clearly an act of organized, well thought out terrorism. And then just 30 minutes later, 9:35, a plane hit the Pentagon. All 3 of those planes were hijacked. The plane hit the Pentagon. There are no reports of how much damage that did. And then at 10:15, there was a car bomb at the State Department in Washington, also in Washington. 4 attacks in about an hour and a half that have changed. And there you see the second tower, the North Tower coming down, the South Tower coming down just moments ago. Horrible, horrifying sight.
The World Trade Centers, the 2 twin towers that are landmarks of New York and Manhattan, and indeed the United States business community, exist no more. We do not know, ladies and gentlemen, what the death toll is. We do not know what the injury situation is. Obviously, there are scores falling into both. Where is this, Laura?
This is on Center Street earlier. Scores of people that were leaving, trying to get out of this area, which resembles a war-torn region.
And you can see, even this far away from the World Trade Center, look at the street and how much debris is on the street there.
This is after the first building, I'm told. We're about to see the second one fall any second from this vantage point. Is that right, Kat? This is tape shot earlier, after the first tower collapsed, and we are about, as I'm told, to see the second tower collapse from the ground floor.
And as you were, Jim, going over the timeline that existed, when this all started at 8:45, with the first plane going into the north side tower. 18 minutes later, the second tower being hit.
South Tower was second. And then the attack appears to have moved from New York to Washington as a plane hit the Pentagon at 9:35. And then the State Department, a car bomb exploded.
We're about to see it here, Jim. The second tower just completely collapses on itself. And we don't know what caused the collapse, but it appears that just structural damage from all that fire, although we do not know whether there was some sort of timed explosion, but it does appear that all that fire.
And in the end, it doesn't much matter. The core was damaged. We know that from talking to witnesses earlier, people who were in the building. We do know the core of both buildings were damaged. The cores were damaged, and apparently the building just couldn't withstand the mass of the explosion.
This is so surreal, ladies and gentlemen. We are sitting here watching this with you, and really we're trying to talk, but words cannot describe what we're seeing.
We should point out, Bill, that we don't know how.
Here comes the second tower again from the ground floor. This is from our Michelle Charlesworth vantage point.
The north side.
She was on the West Side Highway when her crew shot this, and this is, you see it just imploding. Bill, I think it is important to point out that we don't know how far the evacuation had come to this point, but we do know that we have talked to people on the ground who are at least on the 56th floor. We know that there were people high enough up in that building so that 45
minutes before the evacuation.
Before the buildings came down, absolutely. And so it's fair to say that lots, hundreds and hundreds of people got out of that building without being terribly hurt. We know there will be casualties. We just don't want to make it worse than it is, because some people were clearly able to get out of that building. Before they came down, there was a lot of time to evacuate. Remember in the World Trade Center, the original explosion there, people got out of there very quickly. Remember the pictures from that? They got out of there very quickly in a very well-organized way. We can hope and pray that the evacuation was well underway at this point as well.
Good point, Jim. We do not know. Control room, if I can ask you, when you hear of any information about injuries or fatalities, we would like to pass that on to our viewers. We have reporters on the scene. We have reporters all over Manhattan and Lower Manhattan. We're trying to get signals from them. As you know, if you try to use the cell phones appear to be out, and it's very difficult to have communication. It's very difficult. We've lost communication with John Del Giorno, our newscopter 7. Dave Evans
is back here. Of course, he was talking earlier, this being primary day, and the very latest, there were discussions on what could be done.
I just got off the phone with the top officials at the Board of Elections. They have gone ahead and they have canceled the election for today. This is, of course, a primary vote. There was some question as to whether they could go ahead and do this because of what the general election provision is, that you can go ahead and cancel a vote if it's during the...
Dave, I'm interrupting for one second. We're seeing a U.S. fighter plane. And Jim, do you know what kind of plane that is?
It's an F-16.
It's an F-16 U.S. fighter plane patrolling the skies of Manhattan. Dave Evans is here explaining that the election has been canceled today,
yes,
the primary election for New York City for mayor and about 36 other seats. 1,000 candidates on that ballot, and obviously it has been canceled. Mayor Giuliani, David, do we know where he is?
We don't know yet where he is. Of course, the mayor's bunker. It was what we call it, and that is the emergency center where all of the police and the fire and the emergency officials go. That is on the 23rd floor of the World Trade Center, I believe in the North Tower. So we don't know exactly where, of course, the mayor is right now. We expect there to be a news conference. We've called down to City Hall, and we believe that they will have something out of City Hall here shortly. But that bunker is, of course, gone.
Yes.
All right, let's go back to Michelle Charlesworth, who is on West Side Highway with the very latest from there. Michelle.
We last came to you about half an hour ago. We're standing on the West Side Highway. The North Tower just came down. Of course, the South Tower of the World Trade Center coming down moments before that. We watched the whole thing come down. Where there used to be the two towers, there's now just plumes of smoke, people running from that area. One of the people who ran away was Cheryl Fiandaca, one of our reporters. Cheryl, tell me what you saw. We're about 30 blocks away from what happened. You were next to the South Tower?
I was right next to the South Tower. I was about 2 blocks away. It was just a small explosion, and then rocks and debris and everything started pouring down. Firefighters, everyone yelling, run, run, people running down the street. Lots of injuries up there, lots of injuries. Lots of firefighters are injured. Many have smoke inhalation problems, but many have serious injuries, and there are a lot of bandaged people people up there.
Right, obviously we don't know what's in this smoke. Some people speculating who knows what could have been in there. West Side Highway totally shut down. The ambulances coming back, though, are not filled with people.
No, the ambulances are not filled with people. They're treating a lot of people. There's triage going on right up the street here with a lot of the firefighters who are trying to fight this and see if there are any people under the debris. It's a very, very, very scary situation up there, and they're asking everybody to stay away.
As you can see, they're asking people to stay out of this area. We are, what, 30 blocks from what happened? The South Tower came down first. The North Tower came down second. About an hour and a half ago, I can't believe it was an hour and a half ago, we heard the first report of a plane hitting one of these towers and then another plane taking a beeline straight into it. We understand it was the reports are it was a plane from Boston filled with people that had been hijacked, a 767 jetliner that went into the second tower, and now about an hour after those two explosions and the fire and the plumes and people actually jumping from the buildings, both the north and the south tower of the World Trade Center gone, and all we're left with is smoke, people running from what is an awful situation. We will come back live when you get in touch with us. We can't get in touch with you by cell phone, only by radio. Any questions? Reporting live on the West Side Highway. Michelle Charles with ABC7 Eyewitness News.
No shortage of questions. Michelle, thank you. Our reporters are on the scene at WABC Eyewitness News here in New York. We're taking a live picture of the Pentagon. No, this is a picture, obviously, of the collapse of the second tower of the World Trade Center. The skyline of Manhattan no longer exists the way it did an hour and a half and 2 hours ago. Sandra Bookman joining us now, along with Jim Dolan. Laura Stokes covering this all morning, and Sandra North joins us. You can see the Empire State Building from the south view. Is that correct? From them, what view is that from?
That's the Empire State Building from below.
From the ground.
Yes.
Rising up above the smoke.
And south of the Empire State.
We're getting a lot of calls into the Eyewitness Newsroom. All river crossings into Manhattan are closed both ways.
We are just getting word, we're hearing from our control room, that a large plane has gone down in western Pennsylvania. We're told that is from Somerset County in western Pennsylvania. Right now, we don't have any other information. As soon as we get that, we will let you know whether or not this has anything to do with the incidents that have transpired not only here in New York this morning, but in Washington as well.
Keep in mind that all aircraft in the United States, all airports have been shut down for takeoffs and for takeoffs. Planes have been rerouted and told to land at the nearest available airport. That could very well be what happened in Somerset County. A large plane trying to land perhaps at a small airport. We just do not know. Again, there have been several apparently coordinated attacks on the United States. The World Trade Center, 2 airplanes crashing into the World Trade Center, one at 8:45 this morning, one at 9:03. At 9:35, a small plane crashes into the Pentagon. That is still on fire, as you saw just a couple minutes ago. This is a live picture from the West Side Highway, and again, we're up above from Newscopter 7. John Del Giorno is our reporter up in the air, but he cannot hear us, and we cannot hear him, because radio communication was coordinated and existed on top of the World Trade Center, which exists no more.
And we can't say too often, because we've got people calling into us. They are not able to get out of the city. There's a reason for that. Most of the bridges and tunnels, as we said repeatedly, have been closed off. Police have done that this morning in anticipation of any other troubles, possible troubles. In fact, Art McFarland is standing by at the Lincoln Tunnel. Art, fill us in. What are you seeing there?
All right, Rob. I'm going to do the setup. We are at the Lincoln Tunnel right now. Just one example of how New York City and the surrounding areas are shut down. Lincoln Tunnel completely closed behind me. You can see the Port Authority police have it blocked off. There have actually been people who live in New Jersey who've tried to come here and walk through the tunnel. Of course, they're not allowed to. What people are doing, if you can just follow me over here, Rob, you can see people walking here. They're walking west now on 41st Street, and what they're trying to do is get a ferry to New Jersey. There is word that there have been some ferries operating. There's no way, of course, to confirm that from here. But the situation, of course, very desperate for some of those trying to get out of here and make it over to New Jersey. As we go around to the right here, you can see the line of traffic over here behind me. Traffic is being stopped. now well away from the Lincoln Tunnel, not allowing any traffic to come down here. Port Authority police have been telling some of these motorists trying to come to the Lincoln Tunnel they might as well try upstate. One woman we spoke to said that she would try to go up to the Tappan Zee Bridge. There's no word on if there's any access there. But again, the Lincoln Tunnel behind me is closed. The most stark example of this tragedy that we've seen here at the Lincoln Tunnel, a man trying to get to New Jersey who said he had family and friends who work at World Trade Center too. He was hysterical, crying, wanting to walk through the Lincoln Tunnel to get to the rest of his family in New Jersey. That, of course, again, just an example of the catastrophe that we're facing this morning. The Lincoln Tunnel is closed. New York City is shut down for transportation. And everyone who approaches this access way to Manhattan is being told that no one knows when that the city will be open once again and people will be able to use this tunnel and other access ways to Manhattan. We are live at the Manhattan Plaza of the Lincoln Tunnel. Art McFarland, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Norm, if you could take that picture of the George Washington Bridge very briefly, as we're looking at a live picture still. The bridge has been shut down. All river crossings, as you heard Art say, have been shut down. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some questions to ask Art. I'm sure you did too, and you wanted us to ask them. He cannot hear us. We cannot talk to him. The communications devices, both cell phone and the communications devices that we relied on the tower that existed once in that shot, do not exist anymore, and we can't hear him. Lauren Glassberg is at St. Vincent's Hospital. Lauren, can you hear us?
Yes, Bill, I hear you. Okay. I've been outside St. Vincent's Hospital for about the past 20 minutes, and this is where a lot of the critically injured have been transported, especially after the initial planes crashed into the two towers. And then since the two collapses took place, a lot of people have been brought in with smoke inhalation. Now, there are dozens of doctors lined up waiting for the ambulances to pull up. Cars are pulling up as well. People who have been downtown are transporting the injured as well. Recently, we haven't seen as much blood as we've seen people covered with smoke and dust and just the debris from the collapse that took place about 10 minutes ago. This is a level 1 trauma center, so a lot of the critically injured are being transported here, and they have closed down the sidewalks surrounding the hospital, and I would imagine this will turn into a triage center right outside the hospital as well, depending on how many more injured come by. Back to you, Bill.
Lauren, a quick question. Can you still hear us?
Yes, I can.
You are at St. Vincent's in the Village, is that correct?
Right, on Greenwich Avenue and 11th Street.
Okay. All right. We also want to point out that the interesting thing about covering a story like this when you live here is that in addition to being almost becoming part of the story sometimes, we have several reporters in downtown Manhattan near the area where the towers have gone down. Joe Torres, who you might have heard earlier this morning on this broadcast on the phone. We hadn't heard from him for a while. We want to let his wife and his kids know that he is okay. He was finally able to contact us, and he will hopefully have some of the what must be horrific pictures for us later today to let us know exactly what he's seeing and report to us exactly what is transpiring in the area of Lower Manhattan.
Sandra, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can, Lauren.
I wanted to mention I was down there for the first collapse and literally had just jumped in a car. I was hitchhiking a ride to go over to St. Vincent's and was probably about 3 blocks from the tower that collapsed, and was with Nina Pineda and some of our other crews, and was terribly worried about them as well because the debris just followed us up north. It went for blocks, and as fortunately I was in the car, so I was able to get away, but that debris really scattered for blocks and blocks, and then the second debris, the second collapse as well. You just saw the smoke going everywhere, so it is very scary to be covering this kind of story with your colleagues and with people you don't know. It just brings everyone together. Everybody's looking out for each other and wanting to get to safety and make sure their next person is safe as well.
Good point, Lauren. Stay with us. Lauren, keep in touch with the control room, and we're going to get back to you. Obviously, your thoughts at this point turn to, as you watch the smoke and the tower collapse.
One of the towers collapsing.
Earlier today, your thoughts turn to your own loved ones if you're not in contact with them. There are reports only of schools in that area downtown being closed. We want to repeat, we have no reports yet of the rest of the city's schools closed. They are still open, and so we assume that our children are in their schools and they are all safe, of course. But the schools in Lower Manhattan have been closed. You heard David Ushery, and we're going to try to get David back on the newsroom camera if we could to bring us up to date with what's open and what's closed. But there are at least, I counted 4 schools in Lower Manhattan that have been closed and evacuated. we are getting word of this other plane crash. Jim Dolan, what have you found out about this other crash in Pennsylvania?
Bill, it is a Boeing 767. We want to point out that it is not yet clear that this accident has anything to do with the rest of all this. It was a Boeing 767. It crashed about 10 a.m., about 8, certainly within the time frame of these other planes, about 8 miles east of Jennerstown, according to County 911 dispatchers. Again, we don't know, we don't have a casualty figure on that yet, and we don't know whether it is tied into the rest of this. That airport is about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. Again, it was a Boeing 767, big aircraft, but we don't know how many people are on board or what the whether it's tied into any of this either. Could I just point out one last thing? People are clearly going to be very frustrated today because the cell phones are out. And we're used to calling our loved ones, telling them we're safe and everything.
Good point.
Those are probably going to be out for a while, and the bridges and tunnels are going to be closed for a while. They have to secure each of these, and then they have to put people on them to make sure they stay secured. So those are probably going to be out for a while. People are going to have to stay in the city and not be able to get into the city for a little while. It's people will undoubtedly be making use of payphones to call their loved ones, but no sense in panicking if you haven't heard from somebody who is downtown yet, because they just can't get to you yet.
It is also a time to sit and reflect. There is nothing that most people can do. As you look at a live picture of the Pentagon, still on fire. A plane crashed into that at 9:35 this morning, an hour and 15 minutes ago. Part of what appears to be a coordinated attack, both in the World Trade Center, which you see on the right-hand part of your screen, and the Pentagon smoke, which you see on the left. And there we are, Newscopter 7. Again, John Del Giorno still up.
Bill, that aircraft crashed into a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon, we are told now.
The Pentagon helicopter, the wire saying an aircraft crashed on a helicopter landing pad near the Pentagon. A car bomb also, we should say, exploded outside the State Department. Right. The West Wing of the White House was evacuated. The Capitol, we are told, has been evacuated. And all government, of course, across the country is on full alert, as you're looking at a live picture of the Pentagon.
In a morning of absolutely horrifying scenes, first both planes crashing into each of the towers, one tower collapsing, then the other collapsing. Our Jim Hoffer is in Lower Manhattan. This is videotape of Jim trying to do his job at the moment that one of those towers collapsed.
So you can see, you rolling? Okay. As you can see behind me, the second and last tower of the World Trade Tower has just collapsed. It is about 10:30 Eastern Time, and the tower has collapsed. We did not hear an explosion. There was no sign telling us previous any kind of warning that the building was going to collapse.